With the release of Rise of Skywalker, it's time to rank all 12 Star Wars movies. Okay, in we go. Now we're starting with number 12 to 1, right? Everyone knows how it works. So, number 12, The Phantom Menace. This movie is just so bad and so very predictable. Like, Darth Maul is a pretty bad villain. His double lightsaber, they try to make it cool, like George Lucas tries to make this movie cool, but fails very badly. This movie is just so plain and like any other Star Trek, space, Thor the Dark World movie. It's just so lame and disappointing that we waited, 1983 to 1999, which would be around 15 years, and it just was so disappointing. And somehow it made $1 billion. It doesn't make sense. It's definitely one of the worst movies I have ever seen. Never want to rewatch it. But we forgot to talk about one character, Jar Jar Binks. This character is so bad. What were they thinking? What was George thinking? Everyone's blaming the actor. It's not really his fault, but it's George's fault. George. Funny. So, yeah, as you might know, The Phantom Menace is just so very bad. Like, the final battle was a little bit cool. It was a bit like Empire Strikes Back in that battle, but with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. It just was not a very fun movie to watch, and I think they should stop and do a new movie, or just do a sequel after Return of the Jedi, or just keep Star Wars with those 3 movies. So, yeah. Moving on, number 11, Rogue One. Now, I know a lot of people like this movie for some reason. I, for one, hate this movie. I think it's a complete waste of time and just trying to redo A New Hope. Well, it's in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. I do know that. But it's just trying to recreate A New Hope, which failed a lot. Because Rogue One had no characters I even remember. And the villain, like the actor, was decent. But I barely remember this movie. I remember the final battle was pretty good. But other than that, the movie was pretty plain, like The Phantom Menace. Like, it's about a girl again. It's sort of like The Force. Well, it's about a girl and her parents are gone, right? It's sort of like The Force Awakens and A New Hope. It's all about family in these movies. Just like Vin Diesel and Fast and Furious. It's just a waste of my time to watch Rogue One. And I never plan to watch it again. Maybe like once, but this movie is just a movie I thought was pretty bad, trying to restart Star Wars. It just wasn't fun for me to watch. I know other people have different opinions on these movies, but for me, no. Rogue One was pretty bad. That's why in any of my videos you don't see Rogue One appear. It's just, I know I don't like Phantom Menace as much, but at least there's Jedi in that. What a shitty movie. Okay, moving on, number 10. Star Wars: Attack of the Clones. This movie is just bad visual effects. They're, well, for the time I guess they're good, but now they're really cheesy and it's like Flash Gordon for nowadays. It's, I don't know, it doesn't make much sense because Natalie Portman and Anakin, like, for some reason they met. Anakin was like 10 and now Anakin's like 30 or 20 and Natalie Portman's still the same age. Like, wait, this doesn't make sense to me. It truly doesn't. I don't know. This Star Wars doesn't make sense to me very much. And the final battle, like, not the final battle with Dooku and Yoda and stuff, but the final battle with, who is it? Like, the whole battle with Obi-Wan, Natalie Portman, Anakin, and they're all chained up. Like, that was a pretty bad fight. They tried to make it like this huge fight scene to end everything, but they can't do that on the sequel. They had to do that on Revenge of the Sith. But it was just so very boring. Like, that's for one. The giant rhino and stuff. It just was not a movie that I probably won't ever watch again because I've seen it like twice. You know, I liked these movies when I was younger, but now I watch them and I'm like, and this was shit. But there's other movies out there which can be good, other Star Wars, but Attack of the Clones was definitely not a good movie. It was more, it's not like awful, like absolutely shit, but it's not like even good. It's not even decent. It's just not a movie that I would like to watch again. Moving on. Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Now, Star Wars: The Clone Wars has very unique animation and very strange animation because some of the stuff, it looks like it's out of bounds in a video game, like some of the cars and stuff, it's weird. But then the characters in general are really good animation. The voice acting is pretty good. The story isn't very fun because I don't really remember anything from it. But, you know, it's Star Wars, right? Animation. Somehow Star Wars animated movies or shows connect into the movies. Even the ride in the theme park ride, it's weird. But the Clone Wars is something I might watch again, but it's definitely not something that I love or think is good. It's the Clone Wars, yeah. It's, I don't know what you call it. It's not fun for me to watch. I probably won't watch it, actually. But you never know. Maybe I'll watch it when I'm like 20 or something. So, yeah. Clone Wars. Okay, moving on. Number 8. Solo: A Star Wars Story. Now, Solo: A Star Wars Story, is sort of trying to do what Rogue One did, except Solo had some characters that you actually know. Like, actually some decent actors. Like, Paul Bettany was in it. Emily Clark. Woody Harrelson. Like, you got some actual good actors in there. Like, Rogue One didn't really have any. It had, like, one. But this one actually did have some. The visuals were actually pretty good for this one. I gotta say, like, Star Wars nowadays goes over the top for visual effects. But Solo was, you know, one of those movies you might watch, like, 3 times, and then, like, the 4th, you'll be like, nope, I'm done. Turning it off. Click. But some, like, it's sort of a fun movie. Like, that train sequence is actually kind of fun to watch. But that one character got killed off pretty easily. There's not enough aliens in this movie. Like, come on, Star Wars. There's too many humans. Way, way too many humans. It doesn't make sense to me. It should all just be aliens. But what do I know? I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. Yeah, Solo. I don't really get the part, like, how Han Solo in A New Hope is, like, around 30, and then in this one, he's, like, even younger. It just... Like, you would have to get a high bounty, because in A New Hope, he had a high bounty. But in Solo, he didn't even have a bounty at all. So, how would he get a bounty just in over... It would take you years to get a great bounty, but he got a bounty in, like, a year or so, I don't know. Also, like, How He Met Chewbacca was a bit strange in it. There's some stuff in this movie that doesn't make sense, but then there are some good stuff in this movie. Like, the action scenes are actually quite good. Like, the part where the girl jumps and, like, hits the ground and all the bad guys go flying. But the scene with Darth Maul just doesn't make sense, because you'll have to watch the Clone Wars, and I know a lot of people don't watch that show. They only watch live action Star Wars because they think it's Clone Wars is kiddie. But all of Star Wars is kiddie, I'm sorry to say. Well, it's not kiddie in general, it's, what do you call it? For everyone to watch. It's appealing to everyone. Just like Fast and Furious. But Mace Windu, sorry, not Mace Windu. If only he could save Star Wars. He's so good. Love that character. Samuel L. Jackson. Great actor. But the scene with Darth Maul just doesn't make sense. I know Darth Maul and Kenobi are gonna fight in the Kenobi series, but just don't put that in, because people are questioning, is he still alive? Well, no, he died. He died in, like, Star Wars Rebels and stuff. It's that bad. So, Solo. Moving on. Number 7. Star Wars. The Rise of Skywalker. What? Why is this one so low? It's so good. You know, the Jedi jump they did? Somehow Rey was floating in the starting scene, but when she was trying to get on the Death Star, she was climbing. Wait a minute, she could have just floated to the top. Ha! Physics. Ugh. There's so much to say about this film. So much. I'm just gonna put this out of here. The space horses? How do they breathe on such high elevation when they're on the Star Destroyers or whatever? They're like running. Have you ever seen four-legged animals on smooth ground? Well, I have. And they trip every time. And these space horses, it's so amazing they didn't just die to begin with. The end when Rey gets a spoiler. When Rey gets the 2 yellow lightsabers, makes absolute... No, it's 1 yellow lightsaber. She puts like 2 together and it makes a yellow one. Makes no sense to me. Absolute no sense. Well, the visuals are pretty... Well, actually really good for this. Kylo Ren as one is still really a crybaby and funny to watch on screen. That's why he's my favorite character. Because he's so funny. If anyone says he's cool, I just don't know what to say about that. Adam Driver is a great actor, but as Kylo Ren, He's funny to watch. You guys should watch SNL Star Wars, where he goes undercover as Matt. That's a funny one. Star Wars Rise of Skywalker was very confusing, and I took out a scene where Mace Windu was a ghost. I'm just gonna say it. That probably would have brought it up to like number 5 or something at least. It would have been pretty good to see that. Mace Windu in it. But oh well. And then when the, what's his name? Palpatine is like, I am all the Sith. And then Rey's like, hoo, hoo, I am all the Jedi. It's sort of like I'm inevitable and I am Iron Man. So I know they copied that, of course, because Endgame was much better than this movie. So, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker was pretty bad movie. I know it sounds like Solo sounds better, and I'm still debating which one's better, but for right now, it's Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. Just because, Kylo Ren is just the character I really like in it because he's so funny, and it's not because he's cool, right? I just said that, but not his hair when he gets hit by the water, the Ewoks were in it. That, there's a lot of stuff that makes this movie better than Solo, but then also makes it worse than Solo. So, for right now, it's above Solo. Number 6. Star Wars The Last Jedi. Now, Star Wars The Last Jedi was a film that it had nice colors to it, like that final battle in the throne room. That was really nice colors. But the scenes where, like, let's talk about Rose when she tries to save Finn. Rose. I don't really like Rose in it. She somehow caught up to Finn. She's like, no, don't sacrifice yourself. And then Finn. But when, like, Rose's sister had to, like, blow up one of the ships. Like, what type of ships are those? Get some good ones. Get some fast ones like Poe had in Star Wars. Like, instead, no, they get the big honking ones. Like, what? Get this one, Get this Lego Star Wars one and just boom, bolt it. But, nope, instead they get the shitty, crappy, tall ones that everyone can shoot. Star Wars The Last Jedi has some funny scenes in it. Like the one where Luke drinks the milk. I might have already said it, but yeah, that is a funny scene. Good stuff. Moving on. Number 5. Star Wars The Force Awakens. Now, Star Wars The Force Awakens, how do you say it? Like, the colors really, really good for it. Like, that final battle in the snow, that was actually new and original. We haven't seen that before. And the colors of it were just really nice. Like, the blue and the red and the snow mixing together. That is actually pretty cool to watch. But, like, when Rey's trying to shoot Kylo Ren, you're not gonna shoot him. I'm sorry to say, but you're not. It's just not gonna work. And I guess we got some new characters introduced for Star Wars Force Awakens. It had been 10 years. Got Rey, Finn, Poe, BB-8. Harrison Ford was really old, and Carrie Fisher was old too, but it always nice, right? It was a fun movie to watch. Well, the desert scene was good, but it's sort of like A New Hope, and I just think they're copying it. Try again, JJ. there's more movies out there. Like, the scene where they go in the city, or like that hall or whatever it is, and then it gets attacked by the evil bad guys. It's just like any other movie. I just gotta say, this movie copied stuff, and except for that final battle. And then we had Star Killer Base, which was a ripoff of the Death Star because it was 10 times bigger. I don't know. It wasn't very good to me. I didn't like the Star Killer Base. But the movie in general had a decent plot. It's not one I would watch again and again. But it's a movie I can rewatch. So, Star Wars The Force Awakens. Moving on, number 4. Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. Now, this movie is the best prequel movie because it is dark. When Anakin killed all the children, that was dark. When Anakin chopped off Dooku's head, that was dark. When Obi-Wan shot, what's his name? Shot General Grievous's heart out, that was dark. When the Emperor killed Mace Windu, that was dark. A lot of it is dark in this movie. The visuals weren't awesome. Like, the visuals where Obi-Wan was on that, like, rat thing, that was good, but the scene in general was pretty bad. Like, the battling of the two, like, General Grievous and Obi-Wan was good, but when they're riding on that stuff, that's not very good. But the final battle where Anakin and Obi-Wan are fighting is actually pretty good. Like, the battle could have been like good visual effects nowadays, but back then it's good enough, right? It's good enough battle. And Darth Vader got back at the end. Like, I can see a lot of people in theaters when they watch it and they're like, that was a good Star Wars. Haven't seen that in a while. But you know, it's a good movie. It's good enough. It's definitely not like one of my favorites or like really good, but it's good enough, right? Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. Moving on, number 3, Empire Strikes Back. Now, a lot of people think this is their number 1 film, but for me, it's my number 3. Just because it sort of starts off strangely, but then it all gets back together. Like, when Luke gets his hand chopped off and Darth Vader's like, I am your father, Luke. Which is actually pretty good. But for, like, when Luke's riding on that weird space, I don't know what you call it. It looks like a kangaroo. That scene wasn't very good. And then they took out the giant walkers by putting string and pulling them down. Like, what? What is these physics? But then again, in Avengers Endgame, Ant-Man, like, punched down one and Hulk punched one. So, except that did make sense, not Star Wars. But, you know, other than that, Star Wars, this one was really good. Well, it was good. It wasn't really good. But Boba Fett was introduced. Everyone liked Boba Fett, and then they made the Mandalorian TV show. And then Yoda came along, and look at that, baby Yoda. So much was introduced in this that made up the Mandalorian. Empire Strikes Back was a pretty good, like, final battle, like, where Luke and fighting, and then, like, Darth Vader and him were on that little pool, and then... So... And then, for some reason, Luke fell and didn't die. Wait a minute, how does that work? I don't know. But it was a good film. So, number 3, Empire Strikes Back. Number 2, Star Wars, A New Hope. Star Wars, A New Hope is a movie that introduced a whole new universe for movies. Because before they were just like westerns and horrors, funny horrors. They weren't actually scary. They're fun to watch nowadays. And Wizard of Oz was the only thing close to Star Wars. But Star Wars was a really good movie in general. Like, the Wisconsin Raiders meeting Luke, that's actually fun to watch. Han Solo and Greedo, where Han Solo shoots him, that's fun to watch. The battle between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader is not very good. It's not my favorite to watch. But then, like, when Luke's going in the, what's it called? It's not a TIE fighter, it might be. Whatever, this jet or whatever, when they're racing or trying to blow up the Death Star, it's actually good visual effects for there. Like, that's better than Attack of the Clones. It's hard to say, but yeah, it is. But A New Hope didn't need visual effects to make it awesome, because it was a great story. Like, most of the story was great. And Luke drinking blue milk, that was great. And then in The Last Jedi, he drinks green milk. But we had to move on to the last one. Number 1. Star Wars. Return of the Jedi. Star Wars Return of the Jedi was a really fun film to watch. Like, when they're on the speeders, dodging the trees, the Ewoks, somehow they destroyed the AT walkers, which doesn't make sense to me, but to other people, huge Star Wars fans, they'll have these theories that the logs were magical. Return of the Jedi was a fun film to watch. The final battle was pretty good, where Luke Skywalker, Palpatine, and Darth Vader had to fight, and Darth Vader threw Palpatine down a pit, and somehow he survived. And then Palpatine returned the favor and Rise of Skywalker by throwing Kylo Ren down a pit. It was a fun movie to watch, and I loved it when I was younger. But just saying, if Mandalorian was like a movie, I would say that's the best movie. I gotta say, Mandalorian is just the best Star Wars in general. It's the funnest to watch. And George Lucas is so jealous. Yeah. So, moving on. Well, no, there is nothing to move on. Well, let's talk about. Thanks for watching. Leave a like, subscribe. Tell me your favorite Star Wars movies in the comments down below, right? Star Wars. The Force will be with you.